This contradicts everything what Florida and the United States stands for. People come here because everything is better here than in anywhere else in the world. And to have to make contact with the families and tell them that their loved ones are missing, to call them back later again and tell them that we found them, but they're deceased, and then to describe some details that they wanted to know, how they were killed because they were stabbed as many times as they were, it goes against every grain that Americans stand for.
Regarding the situation, how did you find out initially?
Yeah, it's a very devastating situation for us, knowing that my brothers and Nahida Bristy was missing. And we are currently just another side of the world, Bangladesh, and knowing someone very close to our family is in a difficult situation is very tough for us.
April 24th, 2026, Tampa, Florida. Pine Glen Circle, a quiet residential street in the Lake Forest subdivision, just north of the University of South Florida campus. It is 9:09 in the morning when the first deputies arrive. A domestic disturbance call, routine on paper, but the moment they run the address and see the name attached to it, this stops being routine entirely. They remove the family from the home. Then they position themselves outside and start calling for the man inside to come out. He does not. Minutes pass, then an hour, then more. By 10:36 a.m., SWAT has been activated. The bomb disposal team is on scene. The crisis negotiations team is set up. A drone is in the air. A robot is at the door. A quiet neighborhood has become a tactical operation. And still, the man inside will not move. For nearly 2.5 hours, nothing. Then the door opens. He walks out slowly, hands raised. No shoes, no shirt, just a blue towel around his waist. The same towel he had been wearing when this morning started. When a female family member walked into a room, found him playing video games, tried to leave, and could not. That moment, that one locked door inside a family home, is what unraveled everything. His name is Hisham Abugharbieh. He is 26 years old, and here is what you need to know right now. By the time he stepped through that door, 2 people were already dead. 2 doctoral students. 2 people who had traveled over 8,000 miles to build a future. And somewhere between a locked bedroom, a series of online searches, and a conversation with an AI chatbot, investigators had already found enough to know exactly what he had done. What happened to those 2 people? How did investigators piece it together? And what did they find that nobody expected? Stay with us. This case goes deeper than the headlines. Before we continue, this episode covers a violent criminal case and the recovery of human remains. If that is difficult content for you, step away and come back when you are ready. For everyone staying, let's go. Welcome to Unsolved Case Files, the channel where we go beyond the headline, deep into the evidence, the investigation, and the courtroom on every single case we cover. Today's case, the murder of Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristy. 2 doctoral students, 1 apartment, and a roommate who thought a deleted search history was enough to walk away clean. If you are new here, subscribe right now. This case is heading to trial, and you will want to be here for every update as it develops. Drop a comment and tell us where in the world you are watching from. We read every single one. Now, let's get into it.
Case Hisham Abugharbieh, Falkenberg and Orient, can you hear me?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. Michael Rivera, Office of Public Defender at Orient Road, off camera.
All right. And do I have Hisham Abugharbieh here?
To understand what this case is really about, you need to know exactly who was taken. Zamil Limon was 27 years old. He came to the United States from Bangladesh to pursue a doctoral degree at the University of South Florida in Tampa. His field was geography, environmental science, and policy. He had been enrolled in the program since the fall of 2024. His thesis, the project he had been building and refining for 2 years, was focused specifically on using generative artificial intelligence to monitor shrinking wetlands in South Florida. Not broad academic theory, targeted, applied research with real environmental consequences. He was scheduled to present that thesis the very week he disappeared. His plan after graduation was clear: return to Bangladesh and become a university professor. He lived at Avalon Heights, an off-campus housing complex on Avalon Heights Boulevard in Tampa. His roommate was not someone he had chosen. Hisham Abugharbieh had been randomly assigned to him. Nahida Bristy was also 27, also from Bangladesh, also a doctoral student at USF, studying chemical engineering. Before arriving in Tampa, she had already built a serious academic record. A Bachelor of Science in Applied Chemistry and Chemical Engineering from Noakhali Science and Technology University. Then a Master of Engineering from the Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, one of the most competitive engineering schools in the entire country. She earned her fully funded PhD position at USF entirely on the strength of that record. She had already published her first research paper as lead author in a peer-reviewed scientific journal before her PhD was complete. Her Facebook page featured multiple videos of her singing and playing guitar. In August 2025, she posted about starting at USF, writing, "The laziest and not so bright girl made her way up to University of South Florida and started her PhD journey with a full funding. She was not a resident at Avalon Heights. She had her own place on the USF campus. She and Zamil had started as friends. Over time, those feelings grew into something neither of them kept quiet about. Their families knew. They were discussing marriage. They had plans to travel back to Bangladesh together that summer. Nahida's brother, Zahid Hassan Pronto, later told CNN her dream was simply to return home, contribute to her field, and do something meaningful with everything she had worked for. Two people, both 27, both Bangladeshi, both weeks away from milestones they had spent years reaching, and both with no idea what was already being planned inside the apartment they shared a connection to. Now let us talk about the man who was randomly placed into Zamil Limon's life. Hisham Abugharbieh was not a stranger to the University of South Florida. He had enrolled there himself in spring 2021, pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Management. He attended for 2 years, spring 2021 through spring 2023, and then stopped. No degree, no graduation. He simply walked away. But he did not walk away from the area. By 2026, he was 26 years old, no longer a student, and still living near the campus, sharing an apartment at Avalon Heights with a man he had been randomly assigned to live with. What the public records show about the years between dropping out and April 2026 is important context. In May 2023, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to a domestic incident at the Abugharbieh family home. During that encounter, he punched his brother, hard enough to knock him to the ground, and kicked his mother in the back. His brother had been recording him because of what the family described as increasingly erratic behavior. When deputies arrived and began speaking with him, he made statements they documented in the official incident report. He told officers he was the son of Mary. He told them he had created his brother. He told them he was his brother's God. Deputies made the call on the spot. He was taken into custody and held under Florida's Baker Act, the state law authorizing mandatory 72-hour involuntary mental health observation when someone poses a danger to themselves or others. 4 months later, in September 2023, he was charged again, this time with misdemeanor battery and burglary of an unoccupied dwelling. Both the May and September cases were resolved through a first-time offender diversion program. He completed it in 2024. Both charges were dropped. No conviction, no lasting record. But the filings kept coming. In 2023, a family member filed 2 separate domestic violence injunction petitions against him. A judge granted one, specifically barring Abugharbieh from approaching his brother or the family home. The brother later asked a court to extend that injunction, stating he did not want to run the risk of Abugharbieh returning. The extension was denied. That injunction eventually expired. And when deputies responded to the April 24th domestic violence call in 2026, they found Abugharbieh inside that exact same home he had once been legally prohibited from entering. A relative submitted a written statement to the court after his May 2023 arrest. It read, "Hisham used to be a cool guy, a supportive and helpful eldest son, until he started smoking cannabis, especially medical marijuana. It turned him mentally ill, with hurtful behavior and anger problems, which is affecting the family life. We lost Hisham as a normal family member." The same relative also confirmed they had filed a petition for involuntary substance abuse treatment on his behalf. Zamil Limon had not been unaware of who he was living with. Both his aunt Taslima Islam, who lives in Orlando and had been planning to move to Tampa the following school year, specifically to be closer to her nephew, and his brother Zubair Ahmed, confirmed that Zamil had spoken to his family about his roommate's behavior. He described Abugharbieh as unsocial, unpleasant, and rarely leaving his room. He and his other roommate, an Indian student named Rashid, had gone further than just talking about it. They had filed a formal complaint against Abugharbieh with the apartment complex. Taslima Islam later said, "Zamil did not share everything with us. We heard things from other friends, and by the time we knew everything, it was too late."
So first question I'm going to ask is, how did you know the victims?
Both of the victims are students of USF. Zamil is a very shy and nice boy. So he is a guy with a sweet smile, a very modest and polite boy. Bristy is a lovely girl. She sings well, and so we through USF we know each other, and we have our events together, and we are kind of a family in here. We are all affiliated to University of South Florida.
Still sometimes I feel like maybe this is a dream, maybe this is not happening.
Police called me that night, and that night was the darkest night of my life. They called me and said that a body was found, and they couldn't identify it, whether it is a boy or girl. So you can imagine how much painful it could be.
This is unimaginable. My parents are barely coping with the whole scenario. And
I ran to my mother and said that calmly and hugging her, "My brother is no more." After hearing that both of my parents, their hearts broken and they're crying like a child.
What makes this case different from most is not just what investigators found at the crime scene. It is what they found on a phone. Because Hisham Abugharbieh left behind a digital record of his thinking, a time-stamped, documented trail of purchases and searches that prosecutors outlined in a formal 23-page pretrial detention motion filed with Hillsborough County Court. And that trail does not suggest impulse, it suggests a plan. Here is what the record shows, in sequence. April 7th, Abugharbieh places an order on Amazon. Item: duct tape. April 9th, a second Amazon order. Fire starter, charcoal, trash bags, and lighter fuel. April 13th, 3 days before Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristy are last seen alive, he opens ChatGPT on his device and types, "What happens if a human has been put in a black garbage bag and thrown in a dumpster?" The chatbot responds that it sounds dangerous. His follow-up message is 4 words. How would they find out? April 15th, he returns to ChatGPT. He asks whether a car's VIN number can be changed. He asks whether he can legally keep a gun at home without a license. He asks it again a different way to make sure he understood the answer. That same day, a purchase confirmation shows a fake beard was shipped to him from Amazon. That is the documented record from the 2 weeks before April 16th. A shopping list assembled piece by piece, questions typed into an AI chatbot, a disguise ordered to his door. What happened after April 16th will be covered in the next chapter. But before moving forward, one detail about those ChatGPT searches cannot be overstated. Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier had already opened a criminal investigation into OpenAI, the company that makes ChatGPT, over its alleged role in a separate 2025 shooting at Florida State University. When this case broke, he formally expanded that probe to include Abugharbieh's documented AI usage. His office's central question, whether OpenAI bears criminal responsibility for what ChatGPT does when someone uses it to plan a violent crime. OpenAI spokesperson Drew Pusateri confirmed the company is cooperating fully with law enforcement, stating, "This is a terrible crime, and our thoughts are with everyone affected. This is now one of the first cases in Florida, and possibly in the country, where an AI chatbot's documented conversation logs are formally embedded inside a first-degree murder prosecution. That is not a side note. That is a shift in how criminal intent can be proven in a courtroom." If you want to follow both the murder trial and the AI liability investigation as they both develop, subscribe to this channel right now. We will be covering every update as this case moves forward, and you do not want to find out about it after the fact.
Do you know what the relationship was between your brother and his roommate?
Oh, okay. So my brother just took that apartment, took that rooms for 2 months, and he barely know Hisham Abugharbieh. But he always informed us that his roommate is kind of unsocial, unpleasant, and sort of psychopathic behavior. And he and his another roommate, Indian roommate, Rashid, filed complaint against him. But it's very unfortunate or unbelievable that Avalon Heights didn't consider it seriously or took necessary steps. So yeah, that's the thing.
April 16th, 2026, Thursday. The day starts like any other for both of them. Zamil Limon is seen at the Avalon Heights apartment at 9 a.m., going about his morning the way he always did. Across campus, Nahida Bristy calls her parents in Bangladesh that morning, the way she almost always did. She tells them about her day, classes, and after that, some grocery shopping. That call is the last time her family will hear her voice. At around 10 a.m., surveillance cameras at the Natural and Environmental Sciences building at 121 USF Sweet Gum Lane on the Tampa campus capture Nahida one final time. She is seen walking on the campus. She does not appear on any camera again after that. That evening, she was supposed to meet a friend to collect her eyeglasses. She never shows up. She does not answer the calls. By 7:43 p.m., Zamil's phone data places him moving away from the campus area toward Clearwater, roughly 32 miles from his apartment. Within 10 minutes of that signal, Abugharbieh's white Hyundai Genesis G80 is tracked moving through the same area. They are heading in the same direction, together. Abugharbieh later admitted to driving both Zamil and Nahida to Clearwater Beach that evening. He claims he dropped them off and left. The location data tells a different story, and that story belongs to the next chapter. What happened after they reached Clearwater is not the end of the night. At approximately 10:24 p.m., while Zamil and Nahida are already gone, Abugharbieh places a DoorDash order from a CVS on East Fowler Avenue. Delivered to the apartment door at 10:57 p.m., trash bags, Lysol wipes, Febreze, Funyuns, and Irish Spring body wash. He also disposes of Nahida's pink cell phone cover that night. Sometime later that night, the third roommate at Avalon Heights watches Abugharbieh load multiple cardboard boxes onto the building's shared cart and wheel them to the compactor dumpster. Abugharbieh tells him it is old clothes he no longer needs. By the end of April 16th, both Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristy's phones are dark. No calls, no messages, no contact with anyone. Not that night. Not ever again. By the morning of April 17th, two people who had not missed a day of their academic responsibilities in recent memory were simply not there. No calls answered, no messages returned, no sign of where they had gone. The first formal alarm came at 4:50 p.m. that afternoon. A family friend, not a roommate, not university administration, contacted USF Police Department after being unable to reach Nahida Bristy. What made it more urgent than a standard missed call was context. Nahida had not shown up for a scheduled thesis appointment that day. She had missed academic obligations and stopped responding to everyone trying to reach her, behavior that everyone who knew her described as completely out of character. A separate report for Zamil Limon was filed with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office the same afternoon. Both students were entered into the Florida Crime Information Center and the National Crime Information Center missing persons databases. What investigators already knew by the time those reports were filed was more than a simple disappearance warranted. A friend had spoken with Nahida by phone on April 16th at 11:30 a.m. and again at 2:14 p.m. when Nahida asked her to bring over her eyeglasses. The friend arrived at 5 p.m. and waited. Nahida never came. The phone rang several times before the calls started going straight to voicemail. By April 17th, the same friend tried again. This time, the phone was off entirely. She then tried Zamil. His phone was off too. The jurisdiction of the two cases was split from the start. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office took the lead on Zamil's case because his apartment fell under their jurisdiction. USF Police Department continued leading the investigation into Nahida's disappearance since she was last seen on campus. When investigators responded to Avalon Heights and spoke with the two roommates still present, the contrast between them was immediate. The second roommate, cooperative, forthcoming, providing information without hesitation. Abugharbieh, evasive, inconsistent, and according to detectives, unable to give a straight answer about even basic questions. That difference in behavior was enough to shift focus. Before investigators returned with a search warrant, they checked the trash bin directly outside the apartment. Inside, a CVS receipt dated April 16th at 10:47 p.m. for trash bags, Lysol wipes, Febreze, Funyuns, and Irish Spring body wash. Alongside the receipt, pieces of silver duct tape with what appeared to be white tissue pressed into the folds, and blood visible on the interior of the tape. The following morning at 7 a.m., investigators searched the building's trash compactor. What they recovered stopped this case from being treated as a missing persons investigation entirely. Zamil Limon's student ID, his wallet, his eyeglasses, his credit card, a shirt with tears and heavy blood staining that the official report described as appearing to be the result of stabbing. Phone cases belonging to both Zamil and Nahida, a floor mat. Sheriff Chad Cronister later addressed that moment directly. That discovery changed everything. At that moment, this was no longer just a missing persons case. By April 22nd, USF police formally asked the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to take full lead across both cases. Deputies interviewed Abugharbieh that same day and placed him under 24-hour surveillance. One day later, on April 23rd, both students were officially upgraded to missing and endangered status. Flyers went out publicly, the search expanded, and investigators were already moving in one very specific direction. By the time investigators formally sat down with Hisham Abugharbieh, they had already recovered enough from the trash compactor to know this was not a missing persons case. What they needed now was to see how he would handle direct questioning. He handled it in a way that Sheriff Cronister would later describe in precise terms. His stories were inconsistent. He was willing to talk about almost anything, eager to discuss himself, to fill the silence, to keep the conversation moving. But the moment either victim was mentioned, everything changed. He became, in Cronister's words, elusive and deceptive. The physical observations made it worse. He had a laceration on his left pinky finger, wrapped in a bandage. He said he cut it chopping onions. Asked what he was making at the time, he could not remember. He also had a deep cut on the back of his left arm that investigators said should have required stitches. He could not explain that either. Detectives formally documented both wounds as injuries they believe were defensive in nature. His account of his whereabouts on April 16th changed 3 times. First, he had not gone to Clearwater at all. Second, when vehicle tracking data was placed in front of him, he may have driven in that direction to look at fishing spots, but had deleted his maps history. Third, when investigators presented the overlap between his car's GPS data and Zamil's phone signal, he admitted he drove them to Clearwater Beach, dropped them off, and left while they were alive. That account was directly contradicted by data. His vehicle and Zamil's phone tracked together throughout the night. That data was then cross-referenced with surveillance footage from a nearby fire station, which placed Abugharbieh in the Clearwater and Sand Key area of Pinellas County before his car stopped on the Howard Franklin Bridge. Then, investigators examined his phone. It had been entirely wiped, but forensic recovery of the device revealed what he had been searching for in the days before April 16th, beyond the ChatGPT exchanges already documented. Among the recovered searches, can a knife penetrate a skull, and can a neighbor hear a gunshot? Cronister addressed this directly. This was calculating, and that is what makes it so premeditated. With a full search warrant for the apartment, investigators returned and deployed Blue Star, a luminol-based forensic spray used to detect blood residue that has been cleaned and is no longer visible to the naked eye. What it revealed was extensive. Blood traced from the kitchen, down the hallway, and into Abugharbieh's bedroom. His bedroom carpet was heavily saturated. The Blue Star technology also revealed something more specific: the outline of a human body on the floor directly beside Abugharbieh's bed, positioned in the fetal position. Inside Zamil's locked bedroom, investigators found women's size 6 shoes. the same pair visible on Nahida Bristy in the final surveillance footage from the USF campus on April 16th. In the same room, a pink clutch bag containing Nahida's personal identification and credit cards. Her belongings inside her boyfriend's locked room, in an apartment she did not live in. The 21-year-old's second roommate, cooperative from the first moment investigators made contact, had provided information at every stage. Abugharbieh had not offered a single consistent answer across the entire investigation. Every layer of evidence pointed in the same direction, and investigators were no longer waiting to see where it led. April 24th, 2026, the morning that closes the first half of this case. At 9:09 a.m., deputies respond to the 14,000 block of Pine Glen Circle in the Lake Forest subdivision of Tampa, a domestic violence call. When they arrive and confirm the name attached to the address, they already know who is inside. The family members present are safely removed from the home. Then deputies position themselves and begin giving commands for Abugharbieh to come out. He refuses. More units arrive. By just after 10:30 a.m., SWAT is activated, along with the bomb disposal team, the crisis negotiations team, and the drone response team. He stays inside, continues refusing. Then, at 11:38 a.m., according to court documents, the front door opens. Hisham Abugharbieh walks out with his hands raised, wearing nothing but a blue towel. He offers no resistance. He is taken into custody immediately. His initial charges: domestic violence battery, false imprisonment, tampering with physical evidence, failure to report a death to law enforcement or the medical examiner, and unlawfully holding or moving a dead human body in unapproved conditions. While that standoff was still in motion, investigators were simultaneously retracing Abugharbieh's documented vehicle route from the early hours of April 17th along the Howard Franklin Bridge. Phone data had already placed him stopping there. They find a large black, heavy-duty trash bag on the shoulder of the bridge. The bag matches the type recovered from under Abugharbieh's bed during the apartment search. Inside, the remains of Zamil Limon, positively identified through fingerprints. His wrists and ankles were bound. His body was nude. The Pinellas County medical examiner ruled his death a homicide caused by multiple sharp force injuries, including a deep stab wound to his lower back that penetrated his liver. On Saturday, April 25th, the state attorney's office was presented with the evidence. Abugharbieh was formally charged with 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder with a weapon in the deaths of both Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristy, even though Nahida had not yet been found. He appeared in court via video feed that morning. Zamil's brother Zubair Ahmed had one message for the public the day Zamil was found: "Please keep my beloved brother in your prayers." Investigators had already called Nahida's family in Bangladesh before any second body was located, telling them, based on the volume of blood recovered from the apartment, that they believed she was dead. Her brother received that call. The family was left to wait. 2 days after Zamil's body was found, on April 26th, 2 people fishing from kayaks near Interstate 275 and 4th Street North on the Pinellas County side of the Howard Franklin Bridge had a fishing line snag on something in the mangroves. One paddled closer. The smell told him before his eyes did. A partially open trash bag, severely decomposed remains. He contacted law enforcement immediately. Identification took 5 days. On April 30th, DNA analysis, dental records, and the specific clothing visible on Nahida Bristy in the final USF campus surveillance footage all confirmed the same result. The remains were hers. Sheriff Chad Chronister confirmed the identification publicly on May 1st. "We have located Nahida Bristy. We have contacted her family. We are now actively working to release both bodies, for religious reasons, back to the families who live in Bangladesh." On April 25th, Hisham Abugharbieh made his initial court appearance via video feed. He was ordered held without bond. 3 days later, on April 28th, the formal pretrial detention hearing took place in a Tampa courtroom before Hillsborough County Judge J. Logan Murphy. Abugharbieh was not physically present. His public defender, Jennifer Spradley, waived his appearance and agreed to pretrial detention on his behalf. Judge Murphy ordered him held without bond on both murder counts and issued a no-contact order, prohibiting Abugharbieh from communicating with any witness or any relative of either victim. For the non-murder charges, the The judge set bond at $10,000 for battery, $50,000 for false imprisonment, $50,000 for unlawfully holding or moving a body, $100,000 for failure to report a death, and $50,000 for tampering with physical evidence. He remains in Hillsborough County Jail. Abugharbieh has entered a not guilty plea to all charges. State Attorney Susie Lopez, speaking to reporters outside the courthouse after the hearing, confirmed the case is heading to a grand jury on May 7th. Her statement: "We anticipate that the jury will return a true bill. He'll be indicted, he'll get an arraignment date in a regular felony division, and the case will proceed from there." On the question of capital punishment, Lopez said the decision will come after the grand jury process concludes. She also told reporters she would be contacting both victims' families directly by video call to update them on the proceedings. The courtroom that Tuesday was not empty. With both families still in Bangladesh, their friends came instead. Electrical engineering student Rifatul Islam, along with classmates Salman Sadiq Shuvo and Abaral Hasib Shorav, were present and spoke afterward. Shuvo remembered Zamil as a very shy and nice boy with a sweet smile, and described Nahida as a lovely girl with a great singing voice. Islam addressed reporters directly. "It is a lot to process. When we come here, back from 8,000 miles away from home, they are our family, our everything here. We are shocked that the place that is our safe place, our home, our own rooms, our own kitchens, they were murdered there." Zamil's brother Zubair Ahmed, speaking from Bangladesh, was direct about what he wants from the legal system: the highest possible punishment. He also voiced his frustration at the apartment complex where it happened. "It is very unfortunate or unbelievable," he said, "that Avalon Heights did not consider it seriously or take necessary steps." Avalon Heights responded with a statement to WFLA, saying they hold resident safety as a top priority and are cooperating fully with law enforcement. A USF student separately launched a public petition calling for formal safety reforms at the complex. Ahmed also shared 6 formal requests from the family on social media, including the return of Zamil's remains for Islamic funeral rites, legal action against the housing complex, and the highest possible punishment for Abugharbieh. He said if he had one more chance to speak to his brother, "You were the best brother I could have. You were very supportive from the very beginning. You encouraged me to study a lot, concentrate, be a better person. They came to the United States to build a better future, and their lives matter." Zamil's aunt Taslima Islam, who lives in Orlando and had planned to move to Tampa to be near her nephew, attended the April 24th prayer service at the Islamic Society Tampa Bay Area Mosque, where hundreds gathered shoulder to shoulder as Zamil's casket lay inside. A final prayer before his body was returned to Bangladesh. She said, "We love our nephew, so we want justice. We want the death penalty." She also asked aloud what many in that mosque were thinking. Where was security? Nahida's brother Zahid Hassan Pronto, speaking to CNN from Bangladesh, described his sister the way someone speaks about a person they will spend the rest of their life missing. She was the perfect sister, the perfect daughter. She used to sing. She used to love to cook, experiment with different dishes, and make him try everything she made. He said, "She was, and she is, in my mind, always the jolly, smiling, happy soul." The Florida Attorney General's expanded criminal inquiry into OpenAI's potential role in this case continues. The Bangladesh Student Association's GoFundMe for both families remains active. A campus vigil at Crescent Hill on May 1st drew students from across USF. Both bodies are in the process of being returned to Bangladesh for Islamic burial. Zamil Limon was weeks from finishing his doctoral thesis. Nahida Bristy had just published her first paper and had a lifetime of research ahead of her. The case that will determine what justice looks like for both of them is now formally in motion, heading toward a grand jury, a potential indictment, and a capital decision that prosecutors say is coming in the weeks ahead. This channel will be here for every development: the grand jury result, the indictment, the arraignment, the trial, and the AI accountability question that this case has put in front of Florida's courts for the very first time. If the level of reporting you watched in this episode is what you want on your feed every week, subscribe right now. Every case we cover gets this same standard of research and accuracy. Drop a comment and tell us what stood out to you most in this case. Tell us what you want us to cover next. We read every single one. We will see you in the next one.